It's an absolute honor to be sharing the dais with some of the most distinguished people in the education industry, especially early childhood education. And a big thank you to the World Education Summit team for putting this conference together. So today, before I talk about early childhood education, I had a small request. Imagine taking a small walk from your house to a neighborhood grocery store to buy a packet of milk. What happens? It's pretty boring, I guess. You pick up your wallet, go to the store, choose your brand of milk, and you're back home, right? Now, imagine taking that same walk with a 3-year-old child. What happens? Somebody? Lot of questions, right? The road becomes something, nothing short of a zoo, I guess. Why is the cow walking on the pavement? Why is the dog barking? What sound is that? It's the chirping of a bird. How do you know? It's not an earthworm talking. Can I buy a chocolate when I reach there? And if that's not enough, if there is a car that's parked there, she is sure to brush her hands by the car as she walks by, right? What's happening? This boring, mundane walk is actually turned into 100 times interesting activity. It does take 10 times longer, but something else is happening. That child is engaging all her senses, touch, smell, hearing, to satisfy her curiosity. And that, in early childhood education, is what we call a teachable moment. That's the time when she's asking questions, and if she gets the answers, it is a teachable moment. So if I were to sum up in a nutshell what we as early childhood educators, what the role of us as early childhood educators is, it is essentially to make sure that this sense of wonder and curiosity stays alive and that we are able to ignite it even further. As Amol mentioned, I think I'm preaching to the choir here. There has been enough body of research to point out that a significant portion, 85 different numbers, but anywhere from 80 to 90% of a person's intellectual capacity is developed in the first 36 months of life. And there are just 2 researches that I want to quote here. One is by Raj Chetty, who's the Harvard professor who just got the Clark Award, which Obama cited to make the case for universal preschool in the US. I think for the lack of time, I'll skip the other piece of research. But if I have to point out the key imperatives for us as early childhood educators, there would be 5 areas that we focus on: care, confidence, curriculum, curiosity, and creativity. So care, I think, is pretty well understood. And as Amol said, traditionally we've said, okay, Nani, Dadi, Mama, Papa can take care of the child at home. But all the rest of the stuff is not as well done at home as in a structured schooling environment. So in a preschool, children come to us pretty young. They're coming to us at 18 months to 2 years to 3 years, and they're still quite dependent on the adults for some of the basic things. So it is extremely critical for them to be genuinely taken care of in the early years. The next aspect is the confidence building. A reasonably bright child, I went to a convent, and would understand most of the concepts, had a bunch of questions, but never asked too many of them. Why? Because asking questions at that time was akin to disrespect for the teacher or waste of time for the class. But now, in the world that we are living in, actually it's these questions that are the source of learning. And therefore, it is very critical for us to set that foundation where children have the confidence to ask some of these questions. The next is curriculum, which, our traditional form of education has taken care of by and large. However, what has happened is the scope of curriculum has changed. So rather than just it meaning to teach ABC, 1, 2, 3, it now includes a much broader gamut. And whichever philosophy we might be following or we might relate to, be it Howard Gardner or Montessori education system or Waldorf, the basic thesis is that things that were considered peripheral or extracurricular are part of the curriculum now, which includes physical development, creative expression, which is music, art, drama, cookery, gardening, and so on, and the social interaction, the teamwork aspect of it. Now, the next two are the most critical ones, the curiosity piece of it, which is there is a paradigm shift in this. So far, the curriculum was meant to give the answers to the child. We say, okay, this is it, this is how you learn, this is what is A, and A is for apple, right? But now, we have to prepare our children to actually question some of these answers. So the purpose of the curriculum is to generate questions on the answers that we give to them. And the final piece is creativity. As long as we can imbibe our children with confidence and the curiosity, they will creatively chart their own course. So to sum up, the whole education system is undergoing a change, and I don't have too much time to delve into that part of it, but I'll just quote from Dr. M.M. Pant, who's a renowned educationist here. Education is increasingly not so much about knowing the right answers to a set of questions, but more about continuously questioning the answers. And therefore, asking the right question is the first and most important step. And I'll just very quickly take you through my perspective of the paradigm shift that is happening in the space of education. So we are moving from this gathering information space to using that information effectively. When we were growing up and we had to do a project, our first course was to go and collect all that information. Now, information is not a problem. You go to Google and you have your smartphones on your fingertips. You have all that information. It is just how do you use that effectively. Rote learning to hands-on learning, questioning, experimenting, means to earn your living, to reaching your full potential. And lastly, a monolithic curriculum and instruction to a customized instruction, assessment, and curriculum. And I'll just give you a short example here. I was having a dinner time conversation with my daughter, and the traditional education system that I've grown up with, she's 9 years old in 4th grade, and I just happened to ask her, so Anisha, who's the best child in your class? I'd never approached that question. I said, who's the best child in your class? She thought about it and then she says, what do you mean? Different children are good at different things. So Kanav is great at athletics, and I'm of course the best in math, and Anushka is great at reading and storytelling. So that's the shift, rather than having those ranks of number 1, you are ranked number 1, you are ranked number 4, 42, and so on. There are different children who are good at different things, and it is for us to identify the potential and help them chart their own course in that area that they thrive in. So I'm going to end with that. I think we as early childhood educators take our responsibility very seriously, and this is the first step in the field of instruction for children and has a huge amount of impact. So I consider it akin to nation building at this point. Thank you very much.